Good morning. My name is Thomas Venditti, also known as Brother Tomasio in the Legion of Mary. I am a graduate of Franciscan University of Steubenville, class of 1985, BA in Theology. After graduating from Franciscan, I went to Regent University to complete my master's degree in biblical studies. I eventually entered the seminary at St. Charles Borromeo in Philadelphia. I left the seminary and married. 5 children, 2 of whom, one is a graduate of Franciscan, another is currently enrolled, and my family lives in Steubenville. We live 3 houses down from the Hans, and I'm very friendly with many of the professors at the university. So I don't want to make this a big, what do you want to call it, classroom lecture. No, we're going to just have it a just heart-to-heart talk. Okay, I've written 3 books, including The Damiano Demon, which you could find on Amazon, Mary is the New Evangelization, and A Protestant Guide to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So, what I'm saying is I'm an insider. This is an insider talking about theology at Franciscan University of Steubenville and how it has impacted individuals and Catholicism in general, especially here in America. So I would like to say, when I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville in 1983, I was educated as a Catholic at Holy Cross High School in Delran, New Jersey. That was a very worldly Catholic school. Theology was a very minor part of our life. Yet, I did have some built-in knowledge of the basics of the Catholic faith. And even the Bible stories, I knew Bible stories, things like that. But I was a rebellious teenager, and by the time I went to Franciscan, I had spent 2 years at Trenton State University. It was there that I became, quote-unquote, born again, and began studying the Bible, but not necessarily with Catholics. A friend told me about Franciscan University. I went to a fire rally. I met Father Bertolucci, Father Scanlon, and I saw a real excitement that was very convenient for me, and also it did make sense on a number of levels. So I went there, not necessarily, I wouldn't say I was a practicing Catholic, I was more a fallen away Catholic at that point, but I was practicing Christianity. So I went to Franciscan, and I would say that in my 2 years there, before graduation, I did, what do you call it, revert to the Catholic faith. I embraced the teachings of the Catholic Church, and I moved on, and I was thinking of the priesthood, and I really had an extremely high opinion of the Catholic Church after my experience at Franciscan University of Steubenville. Now, I would say that, because I went there and I was extremely, say, naive and ignorant of a lot of what Catholicism offers. I didn't know. Franciscans sort of exposed me to saints, mysticism, Mary, Virgin Mary, devotions, things of that nature. Also appreciation for the Pope, Vatican II, theologians, church fathers. You know, it was just more like second grade. You know what I mean? The first grade was just basic Bible stories. Second grade is like looking a little bit more in depth at the church, the history of the church, things of that nature. So I was feeling pretty good about Catholicism. And I ended up going down to Regent University, which was an interdenominational graduate school. And I held my own pretty much as a Catholic. Nobody really was able to convince me not to be Catholic. Okay? And the main thing was really pro-life. Pro-life was something that I needed, you know, to really get strong on, because I knew people who were Catholic and they had abortions during my high school years. And, you know, definitely I should have had stronger pro-life convictions, because I could have probably saved a few lives. But I was weak in that area and I didn't know enough. But so at Franciscan, they really do focus on pro-life. That's like the heart and soul, really, of Franciscan University of Steubenville, in my opinion. And we had groups go to the March for Life, and then we had groups go to the abortion clinic and pray. And there were always talks, you know, and they really promoted traditional family, and they promoted large families, traditional large families. And they were basically conservative, you know, politically. And so there was a lot on the outside that made sense. Okay, there really was. And Father Scanlon, I think, did a great job. I really do. I will say that, with what he knew. Okay. Now, on another level, that is the everyday life. Okay, how these Catholics lived on campus, how these professors lived. So you had a message that was like really clearly Catholic. But then you had people trying to live this out on a day-to-day basis, and on a university, no less. And so, excuse me. So what we had was people who were insisting, you know, that you only listen to Christian music and that you dress very modestly, that you really did not smoke, and what else? You didn't date unless you were seriously considering marriage. You really didn't even have much physical contact, even with your girlfriend. You went to confession all the time, mass every day, prayer time every day, and you studied. And they had sports there, you know. You made friends. And everybody got along. It was a pretty nice, happy campus, actually. You know, it really was. So you might say, well, wow, what a great school. Well, here's the problem. What's happened is this university, which attracts so many of our Catholic children who are, you know, serious about their Catholic faith, and it told me that the Catholic Church is the true church, that your home, it's like heaven on earth, basically, you know, and you get this tremendous feeling of pride and honor that you're part of like this amazing church. I mean, because when they present the Catholic Church, Dr. Alan Schreck, okay, the history of the Catholic Church, every single event in history, whether it was the start of Islam, or whether it was Martin Luther, or whether it was the Arian heresy, or whether it was bad popes, or whether it was heretics or the Crusades or St. Francis or whatever it was, the Catholic Church was always right and everybody else was always wrong. That was pretty much Dr. Streck's history of the Catholic Church. And when the Catholic Church was wrong, it was because it was a bad guy that got in there and misrepresented the Catholic Church. But the truth prevailed, and the church always worked its way through everything, right? So don't worry about it, man. Don't worry, don't sweat it. And so what that has literally translated into is, oh, well, we've had pedophiles on campus, and we have priests who have molested kids, but don't sweat it because God wins in the end. It's nothing to really worry about, right? So just think about that for a second. When you have this idea that God is going to work everything out, and it lets you off the hook, and stuff goes on like pedophilia, and you ignore the subject because it's A, bad press, B, it might discourage someone from becoming Catholic, C, you could lose some Catholics over it. So at the time that I was at school, I wasn't clued into the pedophilia issue, but I definitely saw that there was a limit to the Catholicism. And what I mean by that is they preached. St. Francis risking his life to preach to the Muslims. But when the students on campus attempted to do types of radical evangelization, we were met with resistance, right? Everything had to be done under the authority of this guy, and then the authority of this guy, and this guy. And it wasn't a democratic feeling on the campus. Everything was about submission and obedience. And if they say no, then offer it up. And once again, it was like a bullying. I call it bullying because it's what it does. It bullies Catholics into submission. You know, if you want to receive your confirmation, you have to go to class. Right? So this is really the heart and soul of this series of teachings here, is that when you are you take the glory of the church, okay? You take the glory of the church, Jesus, Mary, the saints, the Eucharist, the Bible. You take what is free, and you take what is awesome and freely given, and you use it to literally control people. Okay? You use it to control people, and your goal as far as controlling people is to what? Make them pro-life? Yes. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, now let's take it to another level. Controlling people in regards to evangelization, then we start to have a problem, right? Because if you are evangelizing as a Catholic and you're not officially getting paid by the church to do it, is your evangelization any less valuable than the paid director of evangelization? Okay, and this is where the problem really comes in. Because they preach a Catholicism that is under authority. Pope, cardinals, bishops, and they have this symbolic hierarchy and authority that as Catholics we're to be submissive to, right? And they take it to the fact that, well, they're a university, a Catholic university, and they have priests there, and they're obedient to the Pope, so you have to be obedient to them. Okay, so they preached the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit speak through you, words of knowledge, speak in tongues, whatever it is. This was Father Mike's claim. This was his mark on Christianity, and he would be invited to preach amongst Protestant preachers, and he was a dynamic, charismatic, Father Bertolucci, dynamic, charismatic. Ralph Martin, he still preaches, right? And so they preach this wonderful Catholicism, and then they preach the Holy Spirit. Be open to the Holy Spirit, brothers and sisters. Yield to the Holy Spirit. Right? And then, but the Holy Spirit was to be obedient to the leadership on campus, the theologians. Okay, so this has been exposed beyond anything. Is this, they'll only go so far. They preach a good message, but when push comes to shove, they're only going to go so far. They're only going to take you so far. Okay? And if they were to just admit it, then it's not a problem. But the fact that they're only taking you, say the goal is 10, and they're taking you to 5, right? But they're telling you that 5 is 10, and you don't got to go any further. Well, that's really when you have a problem, because that's deceptive and it's prideful and there's no humility. And that's what's happened to the theology department, who is leading a group of very, very special young people astray, only taking them to 5 and telling them it's 10. So, but here again, you can only go as far as your teacher will take you. And if your teacher is at 5, that's all you're going to get is 5. But if that's all you're going to get is 5, and you know that there's 10 out there, and you don't do anything to get to the 10, and you're content at 5, then you have become lukewarm. And this is what is going on. This is what's going on. So this is part 1. I hope you can stay for all the gory details, because we're going to get into it. Okay, we're going to get into specific names, including Scott Hahn, including Mark Maravalli, including Alan Schreck, and others, Father Scanlon, Father Bertolucci, Joel Wright. So I hope that this is educational, and my goal is to get Franciscan University to 10. Okay, and in order to do that, I got to expose the fibers. And I do it in love, but you know what? Enough is enough. And I have the perfect solution to help this university get back to make it great again. Okay, thank you.